pressing the button. My feed should be activating now. Checking feed. According to this, we are officially live.
Okay.
So now I am going to share the presentation and get this meeting started. Sorry, everybody who is on the live feed. We are running a little late tonight, but better late than never. Okay, share screen.
At first, I didn't know if it was my phone or my wife's phone. So what you been up to?
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead, Kathy.
Yeah, we've been kind of laying it all together.
Thank you, everybody, for joining the East Springfield Neighborhood Council Board meeting for March 2nd. We got started a little late today. If any of you are on the Facebook page for the first time, feel free to go in and like our Facebook page. Also, if you see this on YouTube later, please press subscribe. We're trying to get to 100 subscribers. These meetings are recorded and posted on all of our social pages for review the next day, and we put any of the pertinent links on our website afterwards. At this point, I'm going to turn the meeting over to our council president, Kathy Brown.
Good evening. Let us pledge the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United
States
States
of America
and
and
to
to the republic
for which
which
it stands,
stands
one
nation,
nation
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
liberty
liberty
and justice
for all.
for all.
Thank you very much. And again, thank you for joining the East Springfield Neighborhood Council at our board meeting. Thank you, board members, and thank you to all of our guests. We'll be introducing you as we go through the evening. I just have a few announcements first, and then we're going to get right in to let our guests do some speaking. We do, as the Neighborhood Council, want to hear from you. Your issues are extremely important, and we are all just neighbors working together to protect, improve, and preserve the quality of life in East Springfield. If you have a particular interest or skill that you think maybe you'd like to share with the Neighborhood Council, please give us a call or give us an email. We'd love to have you join us in some active participation. An update, we do continue to have our monthly conference calls with the Plaza management. They are doing a fairly remarkable job of trying to keep the property clean and fill in potholes and take care of litter. And they've been actively attempting to recruit some new businesses. So if you see anything or hear anything that you think we should know about and bring up at our monthly meeting, please jot us an email, give us a phone call. City services are, of course, still operating. Call 311, and please continue to report all issues. Curb appeal is very important to East Springfield. It really makes you feel happy if you pull into a neighborhood and things are looking in order. So please pick up a phone, dial 311 if you see graffiti or shopping carriages that have gone astray, street lights or traffic lights that aren't working, Mr. Faded signs, or sidewalks in need of repair. All of those things will help make our community more livable. Piece of information that we've been very anxiously awaiting is the Mass Department of Transportation. 25% plan for St. James Avenue and St. James Boulevard public meeting is scheduled for tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. It's March 3rd. It will be a virtual presentation and it will be posted virtually at 8 o'clock. And then you'll be able to review it at your leisure and type up and send into the state any comments or issues or concerns that you have. So I encourage everyone who's on with us tonight or watching this on Facebook later on to please take a look at that. We will have a link on our website so that you don't have to kind of go through the muck and mire of the Mass DOT site. And I do believe it will also be on the City of Springfield's webpage. But we're very excited. It's been a long time coming. Those of you who've been around for a while know that was 2004 that we first officially approached the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission to start working towards what we have today. And this project is expected to start in 2023. So we're quite a ways along in the process. Cannabis proposals. We have been advised that at least 2 companies, and that was as of middle of the afternoon, it is now 3 companies, intend to request consideration for cannabis locations in East Springfield. There's one for cultivation that they're requesting consideration for at behind the building at 299 Page Boulevard, and that's for cultivation. And there's a retail location at 785 Page Boulevard. That's next to McDonald's. And the third one is at 357 Cottage Street. And I don't have much more information on any of these. We will be getting information within the next couple of 3 days. The Neighborhood Council will host an informational session with the retail establishment at 6:30 on March 10th. That's next Wednesday. And that's the one that's on 785 Page Boulevard next to McDonald's. And then we will also host a informational session for the 299 Page on the 16th at 6:30 at our neighborhood council meeting. In addition, there will be a community outreach meeting that is mandated by the state and by the city for each of these companies to do. The company that's wants to be located at 357 Cottage Street will have a community outreach meeting on March 11th. The cultivation at 299 will have a community outreach, all virtual, on the 17th of March. And the one at 785 next to McDonald's will have one on the 18th of March. We will have all of this information up on our website. We just got some of the legalese notifications today, so we're going to get that right up on the website. Okay. Does the board have any questions about that? The cannabis proposal process? Okay, thank you. Okay, so now I really would like to welcome 3 city councilors here tonight. Tonight to talk about the COVID Response Committee report. Councilor Letterman, Councilor Fenton, and Council President Williams, welcome to the East Springfield Neighborhood Council Board meeting, and welcome to our Facebook Live community.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much, Kathy. So I'm gonna hand it over to President Williams just to introduce the concept of what the COVID-19 committee is, and then I'll briefly just talk about some of the work that we're doing, update the East Springfield Neighborhood Council and your Facebook Live audience, hear from, of course, your Councilor Fenton, and then take any suggestions or questions, which is really what we'd love to hear from the board. So, President Williams.
Thank you, Council Letterman. First, Kathleen and the rest of the board and constituents within, of course, East Springfield. It's great to be a part of this neighborhood council meeting, and it's also great to see you being able to conduct business amidst the pandemic. I know other folks have not been so fortunate, so it's really great to see you all being able to not only broadcast, but broadcast on Facebook where folks can have the opportunity to sign up and subscribe. So it's really good to see that. So one of my first actions as president was establishing the COVID-19 response special committee. And at that point, I had appointed Councilor Letterman to chair that effort, realizing that the coronavirus, COVID-19, and this pandemic has been certainly probably the biggest health crisis that all of us have seen in our lifetimes and may ever see in our lifetimes. And one of the two of the main components of the special committee certainly focused around housing insecurity as well as food insecurity. We know that the pandemic has exacerbated some of these issues for sure. And not only those issues, but others that this subcommittee can certainly bring to light. So the venue for a special committee provides the opportunity for, of course, the chair to conduct business, but it really also provides a platform for input from, for example, our health commissioner, Helen Carlton Harris, and others who can be brought to the table to explain their efforts as it relates to Springfield and working to certainly mitigate any effects of the pandemic. So, for example, and I know Council Letterman would jump more into this, but we've had, we've had Tedexo on the call before. We've had the folks that are running the curative operation at the Eastfield Mall on one of our calls, for example, explaining that process, talking about the long lines and how they plan to alleviate that for future vaccination appointments of that nature. So it's really providing a platform to get real information in real time back to our constituents, because we're getting the questions for them. So it was really important for me, I thought, to create the special committee to also monitor the activities as things are going on in the city that are not clear as day for residents, by nature of just those things not being shared. So again, for complete transparency, having the ability for the chair, especially, to bring the folks to the table who have a hand in any efforts related to the pandemic, and making sure that the residents, first and foremost, are connected to that information in real time. So, it's been great to see that coordination happen thus far. And as you can see, there's testing, there's vaccination, there's the 3 different phases. There's a lot of information coming from the federal level to the state down to the cities that sometimes are not getting in the homes of the residents. And this is what this platform is allowing for. So I'm really appreciative for the opportunity to be on the call today, and feel free to ask any questions after my colleagues have spoken, and we'll do my best to answer them. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the other activities of the committee. And first, let me also say again, thank you so much, Kathy, for the invitation, and to the East Springfield Neighborhood Council, certainly one of our most active councils in the city. And I have a great appreciation for the work that neighborhood councils and civic associations do. I got my start for 5 years on the McKnight Neighborhood Council, where the president and I were a few weeks ago talking with them virtually. So the committee meets every week at 4:30 p.m. on Tuesdays. And so we have a different topic that we cover each week. Those meetings are recorded and then posted immediately following the meeting on the Springfield Municipal Meetings YouTube page that's managed by Focus Springfield. But anybody can gain access to the meeting live simply by reaching out to the City Council office, either via email or via phone, and just signing up to be on the call. So folks can watch live if they'd like. We always start with an update from Commissioner Helen Colton Harris, which allows us to just hear a little bit more about where the numbers are relative to COVID-19, any new developments that are coming down either locally or statewide. But then we move into a topic of the day. So far, we've met with the state and federal legislative delegations. We just held a meeting today specifically focused on housing assistance and resources for individuals facing housing insecurity. As the council president mentioned, we've met and discussed food insecurity. And really what this has served on is a platform for counselors and the public to hear about these different types of assistance, or also be able to speak with our constituents about it when they reach out to us, which is an often occurrence, but I know that's an occurrence also for the Springfield Neighborhood Council. So we certainly welcome you to be on those calls at your convenience, or to watch them later on. One of the big things that we've been very involved with, though, is the push around localized vaccination clinics. The council president and I, when the mass vaccination site first opened, did visit, received a tour. We've been able to get a lot of information out about that. But I think that we all recognize that that mass vaccination site just is not accessible to everybody. And there are many individuals in our community, in our neighborhoods, that have not been able to get an appointment there. And we know that this has especially been an issue in Springfield because of how hard our neighborhoods have been hit by the pandemic. As a matter of fact, it was through our efforts on the committee, we were finally able to receive some data from that mass vaccination site, and also from the state that had previously, they had been unwilling to provide, which showed that actually only about a third of the individuals receiving vaccinations at the mass vaccination site in Springfield were really from Springfield. And the largest zip codes that were represented there were in the suburbs in really a disproportionate way to the actual population density of the area. So the council's been working very hard to advocate and lobby the governor to bring localized vaccine distribution to our neighborhoods. It does look like that is going to be a reality. Helen Colton Harris, our commissioner, of Health and Human Services, who has done an incredible job on the day-to-day management of this pandemic, has already identified 10 different sites, one accessible to every area of the city of Springfield. And as soon as we have those doses from the governor, then we expect that those will be stood up and hopefully prioritized for, or definitely will be prioritized for Springfield residents. And the reason why we have confidence that that will happen is the governor has recently moved away from local boards of health being able to administer vaccines, however, has specifically exempted cities like Springfield from that order. So we hope to see that very soon, and we're going to continue to push around that. In the meantime, though, we really encourage folks to reach out to us with questions and concerns, and to utilize the services that are available through the mass vaccination site. We really recognize that it can be difficult to get an appointment. Essentially, there's only so many vaccines coming into the state at any given time. But those are then, what we want to see them is distributed in a more fair way. So that's what we've been advocating for. Certainly could go on, but I want to, leave time for any questions that folks have. I just simply want to say thank you for the opportunity to talk a little bit about the work, and just know that we're here as a resource for the East Springfield Neighborhood Council. We would welcome you to join our calls, any of our weekly calls. And also just simply to share that we do plan to hold a virtual town hall in the near future, to solicit more feedback from the community around impacts of the pandemic that we may not be yet considering. So it's really just about continuing the access for constituents, and very glad to be able to share that information with you tonight. And Councillor Fenton I know he's an active participant at East Springfield Neighborhood Council, also has been a very active participant in our committee meetings. So finally would just thank him for joining us. And when the president and I have visited these types of neighborhood councils, we always ask the ward councilor as well, who is often an active participant, to join us, share their thoughts too.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it, Jesse and Marcus, for coming and making the presentation, Mr. President for appointing the committee, and Jesse for your diligent efforts. I won't regurgitate a lot of the same information that was just shared. I'll spare everybody that. But I'm really proud of the efforts that both Councilors William and Letterman are putting forth on this, and would encourage everybody to participate in the meetings that are happening weekly and get your questions answered and your voice heard. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you all. Kathy?
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for,
Yeah, I have a few. Cynthia asked, how long will the vaccination clinics be in operation?
That is a great question. I essentially expect that the vaccination clinics will continue to operate until individuals have all had the opportunity to be vaccinated. I mean, we are really only in, the beginnings of the second phase of the governor's vaccination plan. What we've seen essentially so far is first responders and public-facing healthcare workers vaccinated in phase 1. Now we've moved to individuals 75 plus, 65 plus, and individuals with 2 or more comorbidities. So we still have several other steps to go through before we reach the general population. The biggest challenge has been actually receiving the doses. And we are seeing now some news coming out of Washington, D.C. and the federal government, something we really had a serious conversation with our federal legislative delegation about when we met with them, is to see those dosages up as soon as possible. With the approval of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, we expect that will have an impact as well. So we will continue to advocate for the vaccination sites to exist both in the form that they do now and in the form of localized vaccine distribution through our neighborhoods for as long as necessary.
Okay, and then we had another question come from JJ. Is that report on the mass vaccination site, 1/3 from Springfield, publicly available? And if so, where would it be located?
Sure. So that information was publicly reported. I think 22 News, WWLP, their article had the actual information. Now, it's important to note, and one of the things that we've called for is more regular data to be reported by the state and by the mass vaccination site. We were able to secure that data after weeks of requesting data to be released by the state. And that data is only current as of the initial weeks of the mass vaccination site operating. Actually, it was from January 28th to February 16th. And that's why we've really asked for that data to be released in a more consistent way. The other issue that we have with the numbers of vaccines that we know existed in the state or in the entire city, which is approximately 16,000 individuals as of last week. We don't have any more demographic information on them, right? We know what zip codes they are from, but we really need more information and also more information about surrounding communities so that we can compare and contrast. So to answer JJ's question, if you look up the WWLP article from that meeting, which is available on my page, actually, you can see the actual data, but just be aware that that data is a couple of weeks old now, and that's why it's so important for the state to actually start releasing localized data on a regular basis.
Okay, and then from the website, what are the long-term goals for this committee? Is the committee funded by the city, or is this something the councilors have taken on themselves?
That's a great question. I'll let President Williams answer that.
Thank you, Council Letterman. So this is it would be considered an ad hoc committee of the city council. No funding needed or necessary. I'll just put that out there. So and this, the intention behind it certainly is to have this continue throughout the duration of the pandemic to activity for sure. And with every new president, of course, comes the changing of ad hoc subcommittees as they deem appropriate. So if I'm blessed to be in this position again, and COVID is still an issue in 2022, then this certainly would be a continuous standing committee, or I would say, an ad hoc committee that I would certainly consider keeping. So I hope that answers the question.
And I would just add, Guy, I think one of the nice things about an ad hoc committee is it allows a certain amount of nimbleness to be able to transition with the different needs. Obviously, as the pandemic has advanced and changed, the issues that we have confronted continue to change. So that's one of the things we appreciate. I mean, I also happen to chair the Committee on Health and Human Services. I mean, that has a role here, as well as do all of our committees actually on COVID. But the purpose of an ad hoc committee, really allows us to address a specific issue in the specific time.
Okay, next question is from Deborah. Is there any update on if the state is going to improve the sign-up application? Curative site doesn't save information and doesn't hold appointment. You choose last I knew, so by the time you answer many questions, you've lost your appointment, and then you have to start over, all over.
Sure. The website has been a really serious issue in the state's rollout from the beginning. What they claim is now the practice, to speak specifically to Deb's question, is they claim that what Deb is speaking about has been repaired, and that once you lock into an appointment, almost like Ticketmaster, it will hold your place in line. However, that was not the case 2 weeks ago. So they claim that improvement has been made since then. I heard from so many constituents who were so frustrated because they would get in, enter all their information, and then not be able to actually book the appointment. They claim that should be fixed now. But if you're experiencing that sort of an issue, please reach out to us. We can, my email is jletterman, JLEDERMAN @springfieldcityhall.com, or you can always call me at 413-285-3041. Let us know when you're experiencing those types of issues, because that's the type of thing that we need to be able to highlight to the state.
Okay, and then we have a follow-up question from Cynthia. What agency company will be operating the clinics?
The ones that we want to see opened in the city of Springfield, specifically for Springfield residents, will be run by the Department of Public Health under Commissioner Helen Calton Harris. I personally believe that our DPH in Springfield knows our community really well. I suspect that they probably would contract with a local healthcare provider to help provide some of the employees necessary, and also I know have reached out to local teaching hospitals and places like schools of pharmacy, schools of nursing, also to seek assistance. But they would ultimately be administered by our local Board of Health in a publicly accountable way. I think it's the state has really prioritized these private companies around running these mass vaccination sites. We would not be looking to see that occur in the city of Springfield.
Okay, and I've got one more that came into the website, and then just for the Facebook feed, if there's anything else, I've reached the last of the questions on the feed. So I'm going to ask this last question, and then turn it over to the people on the meeting, just in case nothing else comes in. So the last one is the city planning any further funding or small business / home aid?
Yes, so we just actually had a meeting on aid available for housing, and we do expect that there will be more funds made available specifically in Springfield for housing assistance. The city made about $2 million available over the summer, and we have expended all of the rental assistance in that regard and almost all of the mortgage assistance. So we do expect that we will be seeing some additional funds put in there from already existing aid that we've received. We also expect that in the next round of funding from DC, which we expect to pass very soon from the federal government, we expect to see additional funding that can be made available. There is still state funding available, and so individuals who are dealing with dealing with the housing issue should still contact Wayfinders now. There is money available, and they have hired a large number of people to be able to process those applications. Excuse me. And in terms of small business aid, I do expect that we will see additional CDBG funds put towards that. We don't have as many specifics on it yet, but it will be an issue that we'll take up with the Economic Development Department. However, they have consistently been posting some aid, so I expect that will continue to be a priority under CDBG funding, because that is really the purpose of that type of relief. So I expect we will see that, and as soon as we know more on that, we'll certainly get it out.
All right, and I got one more that came in from the last call on Facebook. The state rejected another site yesterday, the Big E. How will Springfield get sites approved, especially smaller sites, more local to challenge communities?
That is a really important question, and the piece around that that's important to recognize is because of, I think, the advocacy of communities like Springfield, we are being recognized in a different category than some other communities that have not been hit as hard because of how high the numbers have been in terms of individuals facing, really coming down with COVID-19. The state has said that they will guarantee that those top 20 cities, which includes Springfield, that we will be able to operate localized sites.
And if I can add a caveat there too, I know in just reading that report on the Big E, the state had cited that their biggest issue was just availability of and supply of the vaccinations as to the reason why they denied the Big E from being a mass vaccination site. So I imagine that on a more localized level, first of all, we probably won't need as big as batches of doses, if you will, to serve those coming day in and day out. When we have specific sites. So I think that the kind of the rollout of the localized sites will allow for a more kind of a leveraged supply of vaccinations compared to a big vaccination site such as the Big E.
Okay.
All right, we are caught up to all the questions.
Okay, well then, if Councilor Letterman, Councilor Fenton, and President Williams, you don't have anything else to say, or would you like to make a final statement, or are you good?
I would just say thank you, Kathy. Thank you for the questions, and we'll keep you informed on the efforts. And thank you to everybody watching at home. We know it's continues to be really challenging, so we really appreciate everybody's patience, and we hope everybody stays safe.
Well, thank you. We really appreciate your willingness to come out and to share and to keep everyone informed, because information is powerful, and then we can make determinations and decisions based on that information that we have. And many of the people who are on the Facebook or in this Zoom meeting really connect with a lot of community people day in and day out. So we now have more real information that we can share. And I think that's part of our role, is to share real information.
Actually, I got one more that came in from the web, and it was like right when we stopped. So I don't want to be like the
One
guy.
more question, please, guys.
Sorry, this is like the third one from the web today. Like we usually get it all Facebook, so it's like the website's like we're gonna crash. It's 3 at once. All right. We know nationally Latinos and African Americans are vaccinating at a lower rate. What type of outreach, if any, is planned to these communities specifically?
That's a really important question, Scott, and thank you for posing it to whoever posted on the website. I want to say that it was really going to have to be a collective effort. First of all, I think access is key. You know, one of the things that we know is, again, the way that the rollout has occurred in Massachusetts. If you have more resources, then you will be in a better position to be able to get to the vaccine. And I believe that that's fundamentally, you know, unequitable and unfair. And those resources really span. I mean, if we really sit back and think about it, you know, you have to have transportation to get to a mass vaccination site. You have to have access to the internet. You have to have, if you're, you know, you have to have, if you don't have a, you know, especially with these first phases with individuals who are, you know, 75 plus, if they're unable to drive at that time, need to have a child who has transportation and who has a job that will allow them to be able to pick you up and bring you. So, you know, that's one of the first issues. The second is really addressing community education and concerns around the vaccine. And that, again, is a collective effort. The mayor has established a vax force, which includes a large number of individuals, very public facing individuals, including clergy, medical professionals, and community leaders. They are planning a virtual town hall in March around this issue. Our colleague, Councillor Tracy Whitfield, held an information session with the Mason Square C3 recently. We plan a town hall meeting, and the governor has just recently announced some funds to be able to support community health clinics in doing direct outreach to communities, you know, communities of color and communities that have been reluctant to reach out for the vaccine. So I think that is all going to be occurring in the city of Springfield and has been occurring. I also want to say the Springfield NAACP has held a series of forums that I've been invited to participate in, again, with medical professionals, with trusted community leaders, to be able to spread that information. But I want to see, you know, Councilor Fentner and Council President Williams, if you have any thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, no, I think you covered certainly most of it, Councilor, but I will add just a piece that might be, you know, somewhat understated, and that is if you're someone in your family or a close friend gets a vaccination, whether 1 or 2 doses, and you see that they are not going through any serious side effects or symptoms afterwards, then I think that person is more inclined to get the vaccination. So I really think it's just going to be kind of word of mouth and kind of word by seeing, if you will, in regards to that. Because, you know, one thing that I will share too is a part of that trepidation in terms of getting vaccinations in the first place comes from a very real and terrible kind of history in regards to vaccinations and how vaccinations have been used for folks of color, you know, kind of in very ill-advised ways in the past, and you know, as our history will tell us. So, you know, there is a lot of work to do that, you know, as counselors in this community, to kind of, you know, dispel some of the myths that exist around COVID. And one in particular is that, you know, there's a strand of COVID that, you know, that you get and getting the vaccine, when that's certainly not the truth, you know. So it's going to be the work of this, like I said, the city and all those that are participating in making local government work to share those messages on a broad stage.
Okay, thank you. Michael, last minute or?
Yeah, I just want to thank Councilor Letterman and Council President Williams for coming and sharing all that information, and look forward to many more COVID meetings until we defeat this virus. So I'm going to stay on for the rest of the meeting, but appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, counselors. Thank you.
Thank you all.
You're welcome to hang around if you'd like to. We're going to move right on to our next presentation. Attorney Sean McCormick is here tonight to talk with us about a special permit that is being proposed for 140 Corando Drive. And he has with him Tony and John Furman. John, nice to see you again. Haven't seen you in a while.
Nice to see you too, Kathy.
Attorney McCormick.
Hi, so good evening. Thanks for having us here to present. My name is Sean McCormick. I'm from the law firm of Davis Malm. I'm here with John Furman, who's our project engineer, and with Tony Batala, who is the chief operating officer of a company called Sterilis Solutions. Sterilis are the applicant for the special permit. The special permit is for an auto dealership special permit, although I think, as you'll hear, we're not really operating anything that looks like you would picture an auto dealership. And I don't, I think it's better to come from the people who have more expertise. So sort of with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tony, who can talk a little bit about Sterilis and what they do and the technology that they've created, and can talk about what they're going to do at 140 Corando.
Welcome, Tony.
Thank you. Thank you for everyone having us on today, and appreciate the time. And it's kind of interesting in listening to President Williams and Councilman Letterman discussing COVID-19. So Sterilis Solutions has an alternative technology in terms of remediating regulated medical waste. And in these pandemic times that we're in today with COVID-19, our equipment is deployed to multiple locations, whether it be PCR nasal swab testing like we see over at the Eastfield Mall, or vaccination sites like Curative is hosting over at the mall as well. Our system takes regulated medical waste, whether it be PPE, sharps containers, so on and so forth, and runs it through a sterilization process and remediates the waste into harmless confetti, versus the standard run-of-the-mill technology, which is not environmentally friendly, where incineration takes place. So that's a little bit about our remediator, and our system has been manufactured now since 2015. It has been manufactured at the 140 Corando Drive location back since 2015. Prior to that, it was we were manufacturing the equipment through a subcontractor by the name of PPI Time Zero, and they had decided to call the lease, if you will, mid part of last year, and we're moving the build and the equipment build down to Virginia and closing up the shop. Our management team felt that there was many synergies to keep in the Springfield facility, especially with our alliance with our engineering office in Boxborough, Mass. We decided to take over the lease, retain all of the current workforce that was previously employed, and continued our operation at 140 Corando. And we've since taken our remediator to a mobilized environment where, you know, and this is part of the special permitting that we're looking for, is we're able to mount our remediator in a mobile environment, whether it be a retrofitted ambulance that can do home care vaccinations, as an example, driving to and from nursing homes for COVID vaccinations, as an example. We are looking at placing the equipment in these vehicles, whether they're trailer towed or a retrofitted ambulance, as an example, and building them out of that particular location there at 140 Corando Drive. You know, we retained all of the employee base that we had via the old contractor, and we look to grow the business. We have been increasing some of the workforce slowly, obviously in these pandemic times, but our intent is that by the end of summer, we can potentially have an additional 2-3x the current employee base that we have today. Not a large number as it relates to some of the bigger manufacturers, but still 30 jobs nonetheless could be created, at least in our estimation, could happen by the end of summer. And like I said, this is a business that's been sustaining there for quite some time. It's just that Sterilis Solutions decided to take over the lease versus our predecessors from a contracting perspective. And we're looking to augment that technology onto newer pastures, as we see mobile becoming a point of emphasis that the pandemic created. We are kind of in that same ideology moving forward.
So I just, thanks, Tony, for describing that. I think that's helpful. I wanted to say that the, excuse my computer there, that the, you know, the special permit for the auto dealership is something that, you know, it's it's not a perfect fit, but we think it was the sort of right regulatory move to do as they're sort of transitioning from assembling the remediator to really trying to get into supplying these mobile environments to people basically across the country. And so sort of with that, I think I'll hand it over to John from VHB, who can talk about the analysis they did on some of the vehicle traffic and the site circulation. So John.
Great. Thanks, Sean. Kathy, can I share my screen? I got a couple of things to show up with.
Guy, you want to make that happen, please?
Yeah, you should have the green button at the bottom and you should be allowed to grab it.
All right, very good, thank you. All right, so the first thing I have showing up here is just a Google image of the location, 140 Corando Drive. I think I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can all get a little bit of a better understanding of exactly where we are. So, Corando Drive is a 2-lane industrial road ending in a cul-de-sac. We're pretty much dead middle of it. And then this building is a series of a couple buildings owned. The leased area is basically in the center. And as you can see from the overhead, the parking area is really not striped. So in order to create a good application so that there would be no questions, what we ended up doing was we prepared a plan basically showing the building, kind of zooming up on it. And then we looked into record plans for what we could to establish it. So here's the property. There's a couple of municipal easements running through it. This is that main building in the middle, and this is actually the leased area that Sterilus will be occupying. It's about 8,700 square feet. Their door in the front will be through here. And then they're going to have some storage containers out the back where they'll be actually storing parts. Not really planning any construction for the site. They've got the property actually has 2 curb cuts, this one and this one. This one is kind of shared between these 2 buildings, the middle one between these 2, 150 and 140, and this one is just the back of it. And there are a number of dumpsters just sitting on the paving and back from here. So the site plan itself, we're not really planning any improvements. We're basically using it to document what we have here. We have more than enough parking within the site for the use. Let me just zoom up in here. So just to kind of give you an idea, what we ended up doing was we looked at the parking lot between 150 and 140 Corando, and then we analyzed what those 2 buildings would need for parking. So when you look at how those worked out with the new use in it, we ended up having 73 spaces. And looking at how we counted out the spaces with the ADA, we have 73 available. What this doesn't show, and I'm going to just zoom out a little bit more, is that there is all this area in back. And let me just clarify, those 73 spaces are located between the 2 buildings through here. What this doesn't show is that in the area in the back here, there is an unbelievable amount of asphalt. And then this area here is being used for some parking as well, which is kind of a gravel area. So the property itself provides plenty of parking to support this and the uses that are already there. So then to augment what we found, we did a traffic study to see what the impact on this business would be for traffic. And as Sean had said, the auto dealership land use code was not a perfect fit, but what it did do is provided a very conservative look at the property. So we basically took the analysis of what we currently have in this space, and then that basically took that away and then added in the new use. So within the existing space of 8,700 square feet, we use the ITE traffic generating codes. And we basically figured based on the 8,700 square feet that generates 100 vehicles per day. The new use generates 238 for a net gain of 138 vehicles. So all in all, as being an industrial use, the roadways are more than sufficient to handle that and process that amount of traffic. What we then look at is like, okay, that's a number that gives you what the total daily impact is. What does that mean during the peak hours and the commuting times? Because that's where people really feel the impact. So in the morning peak hour, vehicles entering is 13, vehicles exiting are 7 for a total of 20. At the evening peak hour, you have vehicles entering at 16 and vehicles exiting at 17 for a total of 33. So when you take that amount of traffic and apply it to the volumes that you already have on the roadway, is a very minor use, and there are no impacts associated with this at all. The roadways are, as an industrial roadway, are more than adequate to handle what we're proposing. And that's generally what I had to present. Turn it back over to Sean.
All right, so that's it. We're looking at really an industrial rather than a retail use in an industrial area. We're not looking at a business model that has consumers sort of driving up and shopping for specialized medical equipment. And so, we think it's a benign use that is, well suited in the area. Going to be continuing a business that's been in Springfield for several years now, and the auto dealership license will really allow the sort of flexibility to outfit these mobile environments and ship them out. Are there any questions? Anything that you'd like us to hit on?
A couple questions. It sounds like the retrofitting of vehicles could be noisy. How close are they to what other businesses, and how will they be impacted? And then there was another section to that. Sounds more like a repair shop than an auto dealer, ?
Yeah, so as far as the noise, this is a relatively small scale operation. They're dealing with air-driven tools rather than sort of large industrial equipment. Tony, if you can add something that maybe I'm
Sure.
missing to that.
Yeah, sure. So the manufacturing we do is light in nature. So we use pneumatic screw guns, electric screw guns, those types of tools in terms of power to build our remediator. The noise level in the building has been the same from 2015 to doing this type of work and installing our equipment inside of a mobile environment. We'll be using the same general processes. There's no special, there's no motor lifts coming into the building or hydraulic lifts and any of that requirements, because that's a whole different color. We're not building the vehicles themselves. The only thing we're doing is outfitting them with our equipment.
Yeah. Now, and as for the distinction between motor vehicle repair and auto sales, I agree. That was sort of a fine distinction. We thought that because the business is going to involve the sale of vehicles, that the auto dealership, which was sort of a higher level of permitting, that would be the more conservative and appropriate approach.
So clarify for me, please. You're going to purchase some vehicles from a dealer, and then you're going to retrofit them, and then you're going to resell them, which is why you need the permit, right, to your client. And some of these vehicles will be brand new and some of these will be used vehicles. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And how many are you looking to, if I want one, are you looking to order it for me, the vehicle, or are you going to keep some in stock in the back parking lot?
Yeah, so that great question. So from a stocking perspective, that's not our intention. Our manufacturer that we partnered with out in Indiana, as an example, is building to, we'll build to our specifications and we pull from them as required. At most, and we know from the building space that we can house 2, 3 of these vehicles in the building at the same time. And worst case scenario, we transition them within a 48 to 72 hour period after outfitting them, depending on what our end customer needs. Again, a lot of it's going to depend on, is it just a remediator? Is this going into a mobile COVID test site, for example, and where they're doing PCR test analysis, which then means, we're buying analyzers and such and outfitting the vehicles with those types of apparatus. So a lot of it comes down to planning and scheduling. It behooves us to schedule appropriately on the front end, obviously from cash flow perspectives. So it's not like we're going to house a number of these vehicles at any one given time on this property.
Are there other questions at this point?
No, or unless the board does.
Michael?
Or Mike.
I do. Thanks, Kathy. What are the other 2 tenants that are located currently in 140 Corando that will remain? What are those uses?
So to the left of us is Concentra. And predominantly it's a workmanship environment. And to the right of us is a charter school who have been our tenants since 2015, or our neighbors, I should say.
Charter school. Okay. And how many, usually when we do a permit for car dealership, there's indication on the plans where the vehicles will be stored and a cap on the number of vehicles. So do you have any indication as to where those vehicles will be stored when the construction is complete and how many spaces you're looking to have permitted?
I think that we haven't shown that on our plan because that really is not what the main focus of the application is. At most, if we were going to think about having something out here, there might be 1 or 2 located in the front of the lease space. But this isn't like a typical car dealership. These are medical equipment. This is an ambulance. So it's not like you're going to buy a BMW or something where there's 100 models to choose from. There's just, they're just not there.
So no, I understand that.
Yeah.
So if we were to, well, before I follow up, so most of the vehicles that you remodel are going to be stored indoors. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah,
Even
so
after-
we do all the work inside of the building. So the vehicle or trailer will be pulled into the bay area in order to add the equipment to that vehicle and then back out and shipped. As I stated earlier, our transition model is 48 hours. So, and we're not planning on housing any types of vehicles outside whatsoever. Worst case scenario, as John had alluded to, there may be one sitting out front or out back, if it's in a backlog type of thing. This is a customized type of vehicle. It's not like you can go on a website and order it. It's a contractual obligation when we put these things together with whomever our end user customer is.
Yeah, no, I understand. I was just, and I appreciate that insight. I was thinking if you had completed work and were storing it somewhere outdoors while it was waiting to be shipped.
No.
And in the back with the storage containers, I know you said methods for, earlier in your presentation, you were talking about methods for disposing of medical waste
Yeah.
and how you're how your method is different. Is that what those containers are for in the back?
Now, those containers are outline spaces where we, actually, there's only one there now. It depends on our business in terms of building the remediator. So you'll find frames. Our pieces of equipment are roughly the size of an office Xerox machine. Call it 2 foot by 3 foot by 4 feet high. So those frames are welded and we buy them welded. So in terms of keeping factory floor space free, many times we'll just take in a container and then pull from the container as required, as an example.
Okay.
I think it's worth just to reinforce too, that while that term medical waste has been talked about, at no time will any medical waste be on the premises. It's just the apparatus used to contain it or treat it or whatever they do here. This isn't taking medical waste in, processing it and getting rid of it. So just want to make sure everyone understands that so that they don't think that there's some kind of processing going on here for that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And then my final question is just about the parking and the traffic plan. Can you scroll up to the parking chart that you had in the sheet? It's just a little difficult to see. All right, so. Okay. So you're saying, okay, parking requirements for motor vehicle repair and office space times 17,000. Okay, so 17,000 square feet and 18,000 square feet of office space. But that doesn't discuss the school at all. Is my
We modeled.
How are you accounting for parking spaces for the school?
When we did this, we modeled both buildings as office, which is a more intensive use than school. So because the parking there, when you look at the school or an office, the parking requirements for an office are much more stringent than those for a school. So that's why, again, we did this analysis as the most conservative that we could. And you can look at the aerial photo. You know, I'm not sure what time of day this image was done, but there is a ton of space left available for parking through here, as well as all of this. So we feel confident that what we've provided is going to have enough available space there.
By the way, my mistake in calling it a charter school. So it is a special needs. I believe it's Pioneer Valley, and I can't remember the rest, but most of the folks that attend that location are dropped off at 9 o'clock in the morning, picked up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's only the staff that are operating the school that are really present. There's nobody parking there. But to John's point, we went the conservative approach nevertheless.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any
Um,
other questions?
Yeah,
John Kosky?
yeah, my concern is that some of these licenses, special permits and things have a legacy to them. And, you know, so we have a dealership permit at this particular location, and someday down the road, the business moves and now that license is already there, and it becomes very difficult for the neighborhood to deal with some of these legacy permits. And that once they're permitted, they seem to kind of have a life of their own, and people kind of get away with things that maybe are uncomfortable for the neighborhood. So Councilor Fenton, I would just like to make sure, I think you kind of started talking a little bit about that certainly if there is a dealership permit there, that there are some parameters around that as would normally be established for any dealership permit, you know, specifying number of vehicles or whatever that can be outside the building. I know this particular company isn't going to have a problem with number of vehicles and the like because of the kind of business that they have, but I just have concerns that down the road, if this business moves from that location to somewhere else, that someone might want to be in there with a dealership, and then we've got the problem of not having already specified the maximum number of vehicles or those kinds of things that we would normally do for a dealership permit.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's a very fair point, and we would definitely, we would definitely be open to some kind of, conditioning in the special
Good.
permit that would, target it just to this business. I mean, that's really, we're applying for this business to have a license, not for the benefit of the, the property down the road.
Very good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. So we would look for a condition to the special permit that that the permit not run with the land and be specific to the petitioner, and also that outdoor storage of the vehicles that are for sale be limited to some very low number. Based on what I'm hearing, it sounds like maybe if we made that number even 5, that may be acceptable to the applicant. I'll let you consider that. But what I don't, to John's point, I just don't want to find ourselves in a position where if we make it specific to the applicant and in the future we have someone asking us for retail sale of vehicles at this location, it's just very difficult to deny that transfer of a special permit based exclusively on the applicant. So for that reason, particularly Sean, I would just ask that I'll introduce a condition that it be specific to the applicant only, but if you guys could just put your head together and think what you think would be appropriate in terms of a limit for outdoor storage, I would suggest 5, but if you feel that's a burden, we can discuss it.
Okay, thank you.
Just thinking out loud here without going back with Sean and John, but, from my business perspective, as we operate this business, 5 is outdoor storage is more than plenty from our perspective. Secondly, appreciate John's commentary. And so I have a lot of history on Carando Drive. As a matter of fact, I used to run the business that was located at the end of that cul-de-sac at 225 Carando since 2002. So I have a very long relationship with the landlord, leasing numerous properties on this street from those folks. Reason I bring this up as it relates to legacy. So the space we currently occupy today, from 2002 through 2012, was a windshield automotive repair facility. And they had numerous windshield trucks parked outside, as well as inside of the building. And to John's point, that special permitting didn't carry over to us at Sterilis. So hopefully the same ideology moves forward, because, and I believe it was Safe Light had an auxiliary site here at this location, if my memory serves me correctly, in terms of the company name. But that permitting didn't transfer to us, when we took over the lease and tried to go down this special permitting for what we're trying to attempt.
Okay. And I just don't remember but I've read it. Is this for a class 1 and a class 2? Is the special permit going to allow you to get both a class 1 and a class 2 license, new and used?
The special permit would, there would be a separate application for the dealership license.
Right.
That would come after the special permit.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, only 2 questions I have here are, one was answered, which was the special requirements for storage. And then the other one was about how many of these vehicles will they be outfitting per month, year?
That's a great question. Today, the plan is on paper from new trailer vehicles perspective. We are forecasting a total of 40 for the year, meaning 10 a quarter. Again, keep in mind that, our transition plan is a 48 to 72 hour turnaround time from the time of receipt to the time of shipment. And, that could grow or expand, but currently our forecast is calling for 40 for the entire year.
And that's all I've got from the feed.
Okay. Are there other questions from the participants here? Okay, all right, I think if there's nothing else, Sean, that your team feels necessary to say, why don't you, wrap your head around that number. If 5 is a good one, talk with us about that. If you have any follow-up questions or comments, just get back to us. And then I know you're planning to go to City Council this month, correct?
Well, that would be optimistic. Yeah, maybe April, but
Oh, okay.
we'd love to get on this month.
Okay, all right. So when you hear that you're on for this month, could you please reach out to us? Because you may hear before us.
Absolutely.
We'll try to keep track of it also, so that at least you can plan your life and we can plan ours,
Absolutely.
which is a challenge these days. Okay, anything else?
No.
No?
Well, thank you very much for hearing us out and giving us your audience. So we appreciate it. Thank you.
You
Yeah,
were
thank
welcome.
you very
and-
much for your time.
We're glad for your expansion. And John, nice to see you again.
To see you. I'll be back in front of you guys with some other projects.
I know you will. I think next week, I think.
I believe so.
I
So
think so.
have a good night, everybody.
Okay, you
Right.
too.
Thank
And
you.
if
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
if
Bye
the
now.
board would hang around, that would be great. But thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Did I kill the live feed, Kathy?
Kill the live feed.
Next meeting is March 16th at 6:30 PM. And we'll put the meeting info for the other two things Kathy covered later. And ending feed now. One second.
Thank you.